Dear Big Show, in the wake of this McDaniels Butler news, wait for Belichick to resign, Kraft to ensure he can't coach next year without the Pats getting compensated, and the Giants cleaning house and swapping their second overall for Belichick, leading to the Pats drafting their QB of the future. After Kraft orchestrated the biggest fuck you to the Indianapolis Colts, he will keep Belichick from doing the same to him and get value for his departure. There's been a lot of talk on the egos of Bill and Tom, while Tom versus Time, the two Bills were released, but Kraft has the biggest ego of all of them and the most power. He will be the lasting image of the Pats dynasty if it's the last thing he does. More importantly, my apologies for the delay on this video. What better time to do this than when I am at work on a snow day doing my laundry? Rather than talking about what has already happened, let's talk about the future of fantasy. Kareem, no one cares that you started liking the Eagles and are calling us spoiled sports fans. You moved to Colorado, started smoking ish, and are on the fast track to a losing record for the first time in your fantasy football career. As of now, Gronk might retire. T.Y. will be god-awful because Luck's going to miss another year. And Adam Thielen is a prime candidate for being just atrocious in comparison to what he did this year. That leaves you with LaShawn, another year older and another year of losing his trade value. Jordan Howard, that's cool. Alex Collins, not even the same thing. And Antonio Brown the Great. You're average and falling fast. Like, you had an off year. No one's going to hide that. But if I could compare your trades to an NFL coach, it would be Josh McDaniels. That being said, you've improved your roster. OBJ looks great now that we're into the next year. Devontae Adams is a top 10, top 12 wide receiver, no matter what anybody says. And Ajayi should be in the mix for lead candidate touches next year. We'll see, but that's a pretty good top 3. And you've got a lot of picks to work with, so your 4th selection, you got some flexibility. Unless you want to take Robbie the Psycho Anderson. Phil, this is the first time I've ever thought it was a curse to have so many good players. Ingram, Kamara, Devonta, Adams, Julio are all clear-cut 1-2 keeper options. Add Amari and Ertz, and I'm still scratching my head and trying to figure out how you didn't win this league. The problem is, there's limited trade options. You're in great shape regardless, but damn, if you make one mistake, in the slightest, we will all feast off your carcass. Max, you have my favorite keepers in the history of keepers. 3 wide receivers over 30, 1 coming off ACL surgery, and 1 being the curse who kidnapped Des Bryant. The most average person of all time, Doug Baldwin, is also in the mix. And then we have Corey Davis. As someone who historically uses RB slots as a revolving door, I fully support your roster, given where you were before, if you draft 3 Giovanni Bernards and 3 rookie running backs. Pat, Kareem Hunt, Zeke, Jarvis, Kelsey. There's a wealth of talent scattered throughout the roster. Will Jarvis even go to a better situation? That would just be cheap. He's top 6, and he didn't even finish with 1,000 yards receiving. Your keepers are comparable to Phil's top 4, minus the issue of having too many hands in the cookie jar, plus the issue that Hunt and Kelsey are going to be completely relying on Patrick Mahomes. Chris, before the draft, your keepers were brought... Nope, and I'm too far in, so I'm just not even going to start over. Before the draft, your keepers were what brought boring to the Big Show. After the draft, your team was filled with Doug Baldwin's boring twins. But at some point in the year, you were in the playoff mix. As the season progressed, your team made my boss say, "Is this a 16-team league?" Now, I have a hard time staying awake while looking at your keepers. But let's do this. I'm going to guess Russell Wilson, Golden Tate, Devin Funchess, and either Carlos Hyde or Demarius, depending on the Denver QB situation. have risen from the dead. Tim, known famously for Brendan's "I bet you $100 you win one game this year" bet, you cruised to a 7-6 record and defeated Brendan in the first round of the playoffs. Is this the most interesting storyline, an act of revenge in the history of the Big Show? Maybe. Moving on, I apologize that our trades did not work out in your favor this year. Anyways, you do have Lord Tom, his Cook's connection. If we sign him, that's weird. I thought he was a 2-year deal, but whatever. Stephon Diggs and Evan Ingram. In a similar spot as last year, I see no reason why you won't be in the playoff mix again. And as we know from this year, you don't have to have a good roster to win the ship. Fournier, Le'Veon, David Johnson, Michael Thomas, Melvin Gordon. And you didn't make the playoffs. Sorry. There are 2 possible results for next year. 1, Fournier runs strain on everybody and finishes with the first undefeated season in the history of the Big Show. 2, we are in the beginning of a curse, and you will never make the playoffs again. See no in between. Andy, this was your year. I apologize to you for beating you with a team filled with Eric Rose. Moving on, I respect that you're pretending McKinnon is a keeper by keeping him as one of your 4 keepers in your starting lineup. No one is falling for that. He's terrible. Obviously, Gurley and AJ Green is cheap, and A-Rob could come back huge, like Keenan Allen did this past year. But we all know you're not keeping Mike Williams, so I'm excited to see what moves are ahead in your revenge tour. Sometimes, those who are so close drift further away in time. LeBar, we all know you're in rebuild mode. I'm realizing as I write this that you also pulled McDaniels in the middle of the year. Thank you, because if I acquired Thomas, it would be taking away from my illegitimate championship, and we just can't have that. We know you're keeping Mixon, Rodgers, and Josh Gordon, but what happens after that is interesting. You have enough picks to pull an all-time mover and keep Marquise Lee. Just do it, man. Just do it. Brendan, you were the most vocal owner this year and the most vocal of your career. It was awesome. You covered the Tim Gate, but you were also predicting championships, and if Deshaun didn't tear his ACL as soon as you traded for him, that may have actually happened. For keepers, you got solid definites. Fournette, McCaffrey, Watson, and as I was writing this, I realized you also have Keenan Allen. You have 4 cheap keepers. Yeah, you're in good shape. I love your keepers, and you have good draft picks. You also have Larry, and as someone who had Calvin when he retired, I can say it's great to be the owner of the best when they say goodbye to the game. Alright, gents. Let the trades and the McDaniels era begin.